and for 199 years. Cheers!
And the way that I am moving forward with what I'm dealing with is by standing on the promises of God. No weapon formed against me will prosper. And when I think about 199 years of Black press, I imagine that there were many times where we had to stand on those same promises. We are at a critical time in our country right now. And I think it is easy for people to get on their phones and doom scroll and the Oscars and do all the things, and we should be able to have moments of celebration and joy like we're having right now. But if I'm being honest, it's a little bit difficult for me because I am still facing federal charges for simply documenting the truth in my community.
He should have Congressman Al Green.
And I proudly represent New Jersey's 10th Congressional District. I stand on some huge shoulders of Donald Payne Sr. and Donald Payne Jr., who held this seat in my district for over 34 years. So I'm the first Black woman to represent in this seat, but also the youngest member from New Jersey's delegation to represent New Jersey. And so it's an honor. I want to thank the Black press. I want to thank all of you for being here today, for seeing it fit to honor us tonight. Many people who do not know my story, last May, I showed up to a detention center to do my job. Not the job that I was appointed to do, but the job that I was elected to do by the people of New Jersey's 10th. And I showed up to do an oversight visit and was met with a lot of terror.
I'm searching for the world that I come from, 'cause I've been looking around and lost and found of my heart. No one understands me. They view its strange eccentricities, 'cause I keep kidding around like a child, but pardon me.
Welcome back in. You're locked in with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. So we'll find that under Andy got jokes. He has a sense of humor. Listen, you know how this goes down, but if you're new here, 800-920-1580, that's the number that you can dial to get in on this conversation. You can also join us on social media, KBLA 1580. I'm at Stiletto Jill everywhere, or get the visual to go along with this audio experience. Hop into the YouTube chat with the VIPs. Shout out to them. They get the conversation going. Now, tonight, I am not breaking down these topics alone. I am blessed enough to be joined in the studio by not one, but two amazing media personalities this evening. I am joined by Niele Anderson. You may have seen her on the morning show for Black Press USA. You also have seen her work undoubtedly on the Shade Room Live. She is an executive producer of that show, child. You know they get to it. And we are joined by Nick Hamilton of Nightcast Media, Mr. Red Carpet Extraordinaire. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Let me move back for a second. Let me not forget that Niele is a newly crowned director. She just had her first film launched in the Pan-African Film Festival a couple of weeks ago. We're going to get some details from her about that. And as we are joined by Nick Hamilton, who we know is everywhere, sports entertainment on the scene. on your radios.
What's going on with your man? Hello, how y'all doing?
Okay, not the Terrence Howard. Okay, really quickly, before we get into Terrence Howard, I wanted to know if either of you had any thoughts on Meg the Stallion. Can she comment like everybody else and joke and play on social media with things that surround, gunplay? Or is it taboo considering how she has stated it has impacted her life? Who wants to go first?
You said thoughts or thoughts? Oh, well, I will say, I think it's much to do about nothing. I think she's just having fun and she throwing shade at Bia. I think she's riding with her girl Cardi and she's throwing shade at Bia. Simple and plain. So yeah, man, it's just what it is. No big deal.
I think it's cause and effect. You could do whatever you want to do, but you can catch some smoke for it. And so when I heard you talking about that, I was like, that's a great story for this week's show. But most importantly, my takeaway was that, girl, you know damn well that you, Tory Lanez, the shooting, we saw what happened. We was all at home during COVID. We was watching the live that you was posting. So we know the backstory on that. And when Nikki is causing smoke and talking about you, you're quiet as a mouse.
Ooh.
And there we have it on that. We can revisit if you like. All right, listen. Terrence Howard was recently on a podcast and he revealed some troubling information about some incidents that happened in his childhood, right? It was a long-range conversation, right, on the PBD podcast. And the part of the conversation right now that has people stunned is where Howard said he began having sex at the age of 4 with older children. Older, not teens, not preteens. He said older, like if he was 4, they were 6 or something like that. So within the same age range, in theory, right? He framed it as a childhood experience that later shaped his spiritual life, his sexuality, and how protective he became as a father. But of course, the reaction online has been less about his spiritual journey and more about the reality of what he described and what that means. Even adults and survivors sometimes use different language. And would you consider this something that falls under sexual abuse? Because it's between children of the same age, in theory, playing. It's a conversation. And lastly, before we listen to the clip, I'm loading you guys up. You're going to be ready to go. Lastly, would this conversation be different if it was a female celebrity opening the door for this? So let's listen to Terrence, what Terrence had to say, and then we'll hear from our guests.
When was the first time you had a sexual encounter with a girl?
I was 4. That was different. I was 4. It was the older girls that were watching me, and they were like 6 and 7. And so that changed.
Did you say 4 years old?
4 years old.
With 6 and 7-year-old girls?
Yeah. And we did that every day until I was like 13. Had more sex then than I've had in my adult life. So my expectation for interaction was always those things.
I'm still confused. You said 4 years old?
4 years old.
And they were 6 or 7?
6 and 7.
Were they Muslims?
No. This is
because I'm thinking your father with.
Yeah, my father wouldn't have known, but when you're not supervised.
And you guys are just fooling around.
We're just fooling. We played hide and go get. Pants up, pants down. That was my experience. And I'm like, I look at my sons 8 and 9 now. No, 9 and 10 now. And I can't imagine them getting involved in that, but I lost my innocence. It's effectively being molested. But then you have this.
But not grown girls, 6 and 7-year-old girls.
They were 7. They were about 2 years older than me and my brother.
How long did that last?
Up until we were like 13. But all the kids in the neighborhood was doing that.
Oh, this is a neighborhood thing. You guys are just not playing and you're doing this.
And we played hide and go get.
What neighborhood was this?
This was in Cleveland, Ohio.
Wow. Wow.
30th and Central.
Who's watching over you? Are you living with mom and dad's in prison?
My dad's in prison. My mom, my dad had just gotten out of prison, but then he's at work all the time, and trying to. No, it felt like it was wrong. but I didn't know
Mom never
that it was
Terrence
wrong. No, I wish they did. I wish they did. I wish I had never done that. I would probably have been a completely different person, but it gave me an skewed view of interaction. I kept thinking that, everybody was promiscuous like that. So by the time I get 16, 17, I've done enough to where I'm starting now, the spiritual side of me is starting to show up.
All right.
But then I
All right.
slipped back.
We get the idea. So there was a lot in that clip. I saw both of you, have reactions to what was happening. It's International Women's Month, right? So, ladies first, we're going to start off with Miss Anderson here. What were your thoughts on that clip and what he had to say?
I mean, it sounds similar to my childhood. I mean, that happened when we grew up. I mean, I don't know about you, but before he
Definitely
said
played
it,
hide and go get it.
yeah,
Right.
hide and go get it.
House.
I mean, I can remember walking home from school and being chased by boys and them tackling me to hump me, and me
Or trying
fighting.
to touch your booty
Yeah,
or stuff
and
like that.
fighting them off. I remember going to my neighbor's house, and I might have been 6 or 7, and they were 13 and 14, and putting me on their laps and bouncing up and down. But then you feel something.
Ooh.
I mean, he's triggering my childhood, but I mean, I think it happened to especially when you drunk water out the water hose. It's not happening to the little kids today because they don't play outside. Something else is going on. But I think for people our age, Gen X, I think people would be surprised to hear how many children have those type of stories.
Yeah, when I first heard this about Terrence, I was like, it sounded suspect. Only because my man lost me when he said 1 + 1 = 1. I was like, okay, dude, come on. Like you on some acid trip or something. But when he started really breaking down and describing his experience, I'm like, dude, that was childhood in the 80s and the 90s. Like,
right, 100%.
I mean, Ahmad has a song and back in the day that says boys playing with the girls playing hide go get it. I mean, the Dog Pound had a song called Let's Play House.
Yeah.
So I mean, that was what we experienced.
Right.
And now I think it would probably be a lot more taken more sensitively if it were like a 13 or 14-year-old
like
messing
me
with a 4-year-old. That's a little, now we're kind of, our awareness is heightened now. Like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, how are you going to mess with a little bitty kid and you a teenager? Like, now it starts to get in some realms that we need to start really unpacking and really getting down to. But I mean, it's unfortunate if that's his experience. I'm not here to knock his experience, but at the time, it's kind of like, bro, are you doing this for attention or are you doing this for awareness? Like,
that's Gen X childhood.
What was your purpose of even going that deep into this? That was my question, right? And again, I'm not knocking his experiences, but we all know Terrence Howard looks for attention a lot of times. He's an attention, you know what? So that's where I'm at with it.
I mean, but the interesting thing that it brings up is I hear a lot in this generation how people are like, "Ooh, no sleepovers ever," and things like that. I don't know that was something for me growing up that I heard. Like, it wasn't a big deal. People had sleepovers. Now, of course there were rules or whatever, and maybe you couldn't go sleepover if your parents felt like, oh, she has brothers. I don't know if that's a good situation or things like that. But to him, he is saying he literally had sex, which I don't know how you could do it for, but do you consider
they were humping?
I mean,
okay?
it's called
humping.
Right. I mean, we know.
I mean,
but do you consider that he said it changed his perspective going forward, being older, and he feels like he was almost molested? Do you find when it's children playing in situations like that, do you think that it holds the same trauma as if, say, the example that you gave, Niele, where it's an older kid that we know?
Right. And I wasn't like,
no,
4.
I know.
I was more like 8 or 9, and they were like 13, 14. But I remember, something felt a little odd, but that's why my grandparents told me, don't go in their house. You stay outside or you stay in the backyard. And then I snuck in the den and I found out why. They said, don't you go in the house.
Right.
See, like she said, that's different. She was 8 years old with a 13, 14-year-old. Like I said earlier, that's a lot different than you being 4 years old. First of all, you trying to figure out how to urinate on your own and not pee all over the seat. So I think when you look at what is being said, maybe somebody talked to him, you know, later on in his life and made him realize like, oh, let me dial back and see why am I getting these urges, right? Maybe he went through therapy. I don't know, right? But something triggered that particular memory for him to think like, oh, I was 4 years old. And I'm like,
right. I don't even think I remember for that clearly.
I don't. Yeah, I remember playing in the street, like and getting in trouble for playing in the street.
Yeah, I don't
Like,
remember for that clearly, but
come on, man.
It's just like if you were from Gen X, I'm just sorry, those types of things happened. And I remember in preschool, that was 5. In preschool, you know, somebody taking me in the bathroom and humping on me.
Yeah.
I remember little things like that. So, but I think what I wanted to say was, I think it also depends on the upbringing. There are a lot of kids that age that may be hypersexual, but because there's something else going on in the household, right? But if you're just a kid and you know you're playing with your peers a year or two, they're experimenting that you don't know what they've seen.
Do you think, and I'm asking you this, Nick, as a man, do you think because he is a man, people aren't taking it as seriously? Could there be, because even in his story that he's sharing, there's probably some aspect of it that is being held back, because the other side of that is kids are just playing, but they're exposed to things that they are then going back and reenacting.
Right.
So obviously we don't know what they were getting into or to what degree, but do you think that because he is a man, that people aren't taking him seriously partially because of that? I
think it's the source of the story. I don't think it has a whole lot to do with a gender. I think you may be a little bit more sensitive if it were a young girl, you know, a 4-year-old, 5-year-old girl versus a 5 or 6-year-old little boy. But I think overall, I think it's the source. And it's like I said earlier, Terrence is an attention. So he's going to, you know, and I'm not saying the man is lying, but you can, you know, bloviate the story a little bit more so it can sound sensational. And that's all I'm saying. But then, like I said, when we were young, we was 9 and 10 years old. One of the homies went into his dad's collection for a porno. That was the first time I seen a porno. You know what I mean? We were sitting there laughing at it because we didn't know what to really look at. We just laughing, right? And listening to the noises and stuff. Right. So maybe those kids that was 6 and 7, maybe they busted in on their parents doing something, and they trying to emulate what they see.
TV. Remember back then, TV, the sex scenes, or you watch the soap opera and they're in bed and they kiss
and the noises and stuff. Like, we used to laugh at that
in the neighborhood.
We thought it was funny. We didn't try it, you know what I'm saying? But we thought it was funny.
See what's going on.
Yeah, we make noises in class and stuff, but we weren't trying that. We just thought it was funny.
But some of the boys.
Yeah, I wasn't. I'm gonna be very, very clear in that.
Was trying that.
Listen, when we come forward, we're going to kind of flip this topic on his head, because I think part of it goes directly to the over-sexualization of Black kids. But we're going to flip that when we get on this next topic. Check it out. Stick. Welcome in. You're locked in with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. Listen, I'm joined today by Nick Hamilton of Nightcast Media and Niele Anderson of Black Press USA, their morning show, and TSR Live, the executive producer. So listen.
And we're all saying, unlike Kanye.
Conversation for another day. Kanye has a show coming up at SoFi.
Yeah, 1 million people. 1 million people tried to buy tickets. That's insane.
So you got 1 million idiots. All right.
No, if it's Kanye and Sunday Service Kanye, I am 100% in. Give me my tickets. But if it is Ye post Kim Kardashian, maybe I'm not interested. But I am interested in Kanye.
Yeah, I lost Kanye when he started talking about Black people and slavery. I was done.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
There's no coming back from that.
I'm sorry. I can separate the art from the music.
Mm-mm.
I can do it.
Not happening. All right, look.
I ain't taking no money for no white supremacists.
I'm listening to R. Kelly. Okay. I'm watching the Cosby Show and I'll
Oh,
listen
Bill
to
Cosby.
Oh, goodness. Here we go.
Aura.
Well, speaking of Bill Cosby, hard pivot, but not. Happy birthday, Jasmine Guy.
Heart.
Shout out to
Yay,
Jasmine.
yes.
Yo, I remember. I forgot she was in the Temptations video, the Tupac video.
Yeah.
She was with Bill Bellamy.
Yep.
I forgot about that. That's when she was bad. She was in her prime.
Yeah.
Woo.
Well, I can't wait to see her on the Different World reboot. I'm looking
know
forward
all
to
of
that.
them. Yeah, that's going to be amazing. All right, so listen, Melyssa Ford. She's not the first, but we're going to expand. This is kind of a broad topic, starting with the fine point. So Melyssa Ford has the internet debating whether luxury without emotional safety is really a flex, right? There's a clip of Melyssa on Shan Budaram's podcast, and they're discussing dating, specifically dating wealthy men. And Melyssa shares that she feels it's overrated and hollow. She says that these men did a number of things for her, but she doesn't feel that she ever really had an intimate connection. So we're going to listen to what she had to say, and then we're going to get into some other things related.
Looking for a financially stable partner is the best bet. Do you feel a sense of disillusionment from it? Or what would you say in response to people who look at that and say, oh, I aspire to that?
I don't know if I've really had an intimate relationship with a man in my entire life. I dated men of means, so I started flying by PJ and staying in, wonderful hotels and incredible suites and traveling the world. And it just rings so hollow because then you'll see those same guys do that for other girls kind of thing, It's just men's with means that's nothing.
I've spoken to women before who have a partner who has lots of means, and it contributes, may not be the only reason, but it definitely contributes to their feeling of appreciation to be in the relationship.
And don't let me say that being like all rich men are pieces of that is definitely not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
However, I've dated enough of them that there is a consistency. I call it rich man syndrome. You know what rich man syndrome looks like?
What?
Somebody got to get that. Fame is a vapor, popularity is an accident, riches take wings. The only thing to endure is character.
So one, I don't know why they added that music to that. That was a lot, the music they added to the clip. But who wants to give first thoughts? Go ahead, Nick Hamilton.
First of all, that chick is deep as shallow. First of all, when did you have this sudden revelation when you realized there was not that much tread left on the tire? Because all of a sudden, now you want to have this revelation because you're getting older and you realize options have decreased significantly because you're not a high stock on the stock exchange any longer. And so you could have had an intimate connection because I'm sure there were some brothers out there that had their stuff together, may not have the millions of dollars, but they had enough that were going to treat you like the woman that you desire to be treated like, but yet you opted out for the money. And now you want people to feel for you because now all of a sudden you come to this sudden revelation because your options are running drier than the Arizona desert in the summertime. And so now we're supposed to believe that you're just coming full circle. No, get the hell out of here. Ain't nobody going for that. You knew exactly what you wanted, how you wanted it, and now you've made your bed, so now you have to lie in it. So good luck on choosing somebody that's going to be for you now all of a sudden that you probably bypass the people that were supposed to be in your life. I'm done.
See, I didn't hear that. I heard a woman that, and Melyssa's still a baddie. She's
She
still
is.
a baddie. And so when Melyssa was in her prime, that's what she had access to. And as she has gotten older, she realizes that that's not really what she was looking for. And I think that that's what young women have. Like, if you look at all these young girls now, they're not thinking about tomorrow. They're thinking about today. And me getting the bag, me getting the clothing, that's just nature of your youthfulness and having men want you for what you look like. As you get older and you realize things, you realize that's not what I want. That's not what I want. And I feel like she's entitled to say that. But I know for a fact Melyssa has done the work on herself to know that, that's not the route that she could go. Because if she wanted to be in high-end places and have a rich man, she could.
I'm not saying she can't, but it was a choice. And you made a choice.
Right.
So here's the thing. It's just like you said, that's the problem. You're looking at today instead of looking at next month.
Well,
so
here's the thing that I'd like to point out, just to throw a little bit of brevity to the situation. Realistically speaking, right? I'm sure that the men that she was dating at that time weren't exactly pining away for marriage either. You have to think, when you're in your 20s and 30s, are a lot of men in that age range generally, especially in the environments that she was in, looking for marriage? I'm not saying people don't get married, but we don't love them souls. Neither of them probably were at that moment.
But we're not talking about marriage. Well, I'm just saying in a relationship, and based upon what she was talking about, like I said, I'm not saying there was a plethora of brothers that weren't millionaires, because she was that girl at that time, right? So you are in a particular environment, but that's not to say that there were absolutely no brothers stuff together. May not, like I said, may not be a multi-millionaires.
This is what I'm saying.
That's all I'm saying. She was looking at the price tag instead of looking at the person.
Yeah, because she was having fun. But what I'm saying, the flip side of that is, it doesn't mean that the guy that didn't have the money had all the substance and wanted to marry her too.
No,
he might have wanted her for the same reasons that the rich guy.
That could be too.
Andy, I see you. Come, bring it in.
I'm just gonna say, even at a young age, they probably weren't even thinking about having substantial type of conversations.
Right, true. And let's talk about Melyssa. She's from Canada, so when she comes to the United States, she's not in the neighborhoods that we was talking about in our upbringing, like Terrence Martin, right? She came to the United States in a space of hip hop and of culture, and so she was not on 125th in St. Nick in New York, hanging out. She was in that culture, hip hop culture environment. So those were the men that she had at her access. She was in that type of environment. She was on the yachts with Jay-Z and Dame Dash. She wasn't in the projects, the Marcy projects. So she was in her environment, and that's what she had. And she wasn't looking out. So why would you at that age? Why would you?
But on the West Coast, she was on some of them blocks. I can tell you some people.
Okay, but who was she on the blocks with?
I'm not go. Come on now.
I'm joking.
Can't do it. Can't do it. You know better. You can't be giving what people tell you. Can't give up the source.
But my point is, she was in the culture. She wasn't just like Krishan going to the projects and getting.
No, I'm not saying that. But like I said, everything is a choice, and what you choose to be a part of. And like I said, she was on them blocks on the West Coast with some cats that wasn't always in front of the camera. Let's put it that way.
Andy, what were you gonna say?
I guess the question I have is, and it probably was answered, later on in the podcast or whatnot, but like, considering those relationships were hollow to her, you know what I'm saying? What substance are you looking for?
Currently? I mean, I think she, as Niele mentioned, she is more spiritually grounded. She's probably looking for someone. She said she didn't have intimacy, so someone that she can connect with, right?
What does that look like?
I mean, what does it look like for her? We'd have to ask her. It could look different for
we got two ladies here in the building. What would you think? I'm not speaking
for her. No, I'm not. I can't speak for her, because what it looks like for her might not be what it looks like for either one of us. I'm gonna be clear. Finances are a part of the equation for me. Don't think that you can get your budget off of me. I'm so sorry. I'm just saying that I do think that. Now, is it everything? No. But is it part of the equation?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
It should be.
And I think that, for me, and I think for any woman now, like a Gen Xer, we're more seasoned. We're looking for partnership. We're looking we're not looking for a 50-50. We're looking sometimes for 80-20, 60-40, 10-90, We're looking for, that partner that can pull the weight when they have to. And then when I have to pull the weight, but you're looking for friendship. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you walk ahead, sometimes you walk behind, sometimes we walk together. I think that's what we're looking for now.
Okay, I was glad you clarified that, because when you start doing the 60, 40, 80, 20 thing, I was glad you clarified.
But
that.
I wasn't talking about just like, the male with that.
No, I'm
higher
saying that's why I'm
ratio.
glad you clarified that, because I was
yeah.
about to be like, wait a minute, you looking for a man or adoption agency? So I'm glad you clarified that.
Okay, listen. When we come forward, we're going to get into Aisha Diaz. Aisha is a star tender from New York. That's a cute bartender that works in the strip club. Very beautiful woman, used to be in videos, has dated various popular people, one of which being Bow Wow. I'll get into why we're bringing up Bow Wow in this connection in a minute. But Aisha says there's a ticket to date her. Sort of.
She's the problem.
Sort of. And that price, I promise you can't afford it.
Right.
45 to 50K a month. We'll get into those details when we come forward.
You're riding with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
We ask seniors how to prevent.
Doesn't want her to work. Star tender, I mentioned Video Girl or whatever. She was on the Blackout with Ian and Rashad. They're part of the Earn Your Leisure Network. And the conversation was about dating. And they were asked, how much does it cost to maintain you, to date you? So her statement was basically, if a man wants to take her off the board, meaning he doesn't want her to work, she's a star tender, as I mentioned. So that means that she is in the club night after night where the ballers are, right? She's also has done videos in the past. She does OnlyFans. Okay. So she is basically saying the reason why it's that much is because if you want to remove me from going outside and making my money, you don't want me to work, you don't want me on social media, you have to replace that. And not just my bills. I also have to save money, because oftentimes in relationships with wealthy men, when they break up with you, right, especially if we're talking marriage and you've been with them for a length of time and you've given up career or all of these opportunities to follow them around from city to city, if that's what they're doing, if they're playing and getting traded a lot or whatever, you can, but it might be difficult to keep a regular job while dating a professional athlete, right? Especially one that wants you there with him as he moves. So having said that, she's saying, if you want to take me off the board, if you decide to break up with me, I'm 6 months down on my social media presence, which is how I make my bread. And now I got to go find some place to live and all of these things. So I need to be secure in this as you are secure in that. That's my interpretation of it, at least. Thoughts?
I mean, so just first off, if she's talking about $45,000 a month, that's $540,000 a year. So she's talking about, in order to keep her on an annual, it's $500,000 plus. Okay.
She says that's what she does for herself.
Yeah, yeah. So that, let's just put that out there. It was so funny. I was talking to Tone Capone about this, and he did the math. He said that means I would have to make, not that he would have to make, but he would at least have to have $500,000 on reserve,
right,
to be with this woman. And so I found that interesting to see when a man heard that, he initially started doing
the math. Like, can I afford that ticket?
Right.
Maybe I could afford it for a couple months. I want to ride that ride for 3 or 4 months. Let's see.
Either we going to the adoption agency or we gonna get you a W-2, because it sounds like you want to be, I got to claim you on my taxes, because if I'm taking care of a grown ass woman, another adult, another humanoid that's not under the age of 18,
I might have to 1099.
Then I'm a 1099 you, I'm a W-2 you, or I'm going to get you. We're going to go down to the adoption agency, because apparently you want to be adopted, you want to be taken care of in that way, because you're only looking at the superficial. So you're not looking at anything like we were talking off air about, 50-50, 80-20, and she was saying the male and female roles would switch. She's not talking like that. So basically, you sound like a high-price hooker.
A prostitute.
And you are a harlot, madam. And that's what you sound like. And that's the way you come across. And that's how people are going to treat you.
She is not saying, here's the thing. She said that. She's not saying that that's how much you have to pay to date her, per se. But if you don't want her to work, and there are a lot of men that are famous that don't want their women to work.
But here's my thing too. I don't disagree with that, but here's my thing. If it takes me 40 to 50 grand a month because I'm nervous that you might go on Instagram and pick up another dude
Wrong
or whatever,
woman for you.
You can have her. You for the streets anyway. So if you a dude and you that thirsty or stupid with either one, and you decide that's what you want to do, then you get whatever's coming to you. And this is why I praise Dakota Prescott, because my man walked away. The woman said, I ain't signed no prenup. He was like, all right,
He's
bye.
talking about Dak Prescott of the Dallas Cowboys.
I paid the $18,000 a month for the child support.
So quick on that. They were engaged. They had their twin bridal groom weekend. Something happened. She refused to sign the prenup. Allegedly, they had this conversation in front of people. And so that he was like, no wedding. See ya. Forrest Harrison in the chat says, real men don't pay women to stay. They pay them to go away. I don't. Now, that is always a thing. That is what is always said. That is why, a lot of these high-priced friends, they're paying for their silence. They're paying for them to get up and leave afterwards and not complain about it. But listen, we got to put a pin in this topic. This has been a lively one. We have to pick this up again sometime. So, as you know, I'll be back here tomorrow, 6 p.m. with more trending topics and headlines. First of all, Niele Anderson, thank you so much for joining. Tell the people where they can find you.
Niele LA on Instagram and Niele Anderson on all other social platforms.
Nick Hamilton, as always, thank you. Where can the people find you?
At Nightcast Media on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And here's the word to the wise. Those aren't women you pay to leave. Those are people you find on Fig.
Listen,
Nick Hamilton is
always going to have something for you. All right, you guys, back here tomorrow, 6 p.m. Coming up next for some more heat. He has this type of stuff on live. Life advice. Guide the people. Zoe Williams. I'll be back.